You know, Black Lives Matters actually is something that I think that still interests a lot of people. I know for one that I'm still, even though I don't post about it as like much, it's still a movement actually that I continue to follow from time to time because it involves a lot of things, not just from what we think of when we, just think about, the loss of a black life. But what makes, this particular presentation or this particular topic interesting to me is, for the most part, the people that are getting involved. We already know that for the most part that African Americans are going to be the main ones that actually support this movement, because again, the movement was actually started by African Americans for African Americans. But the issue is that it's becoming a very I guess a very interesting movement, because now not only do you have blacks that are really interested and that are really supporting their, lending their support to this movement, you actually have people of other races, mainly whites, that are, wanting to be a part of this movement, also. And for the most part, my particular question is, do they have that right to actually participate in, this particular movement that is for, and that are primarily ran by blacks? Now, when I was actually doing my research, for the most part, just kind of, seeing where this particular movement actually started, I was surprised because it actually was started by, three African American women. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think my research is pretty much on point with this. But, it was interesting, that they were the ones that actually were the pioneers, if you will, of this particular movement, in the wake of, the murder of one Michael Brown. And for the most part, we already know the story about Michael Brown, where a lot of people still have their particular opinions about about this particular individual. It's unfortunate that he lost his life, but the issue is that America, Black America, was mainly focused on the fact that this is a young black teen, had a lot going for him, was graduating school or what have you. And, he was shot down by white officers, by white male police officers. And for the most part, when America was actually looking at this, actually after it happened, it pretty much gave, gave African American community a very sour taste in their mouth, very sour views, on how brutal the police force can be, mainly those who are in a position of authority who happens to be white. And I really do think that, the fact that when we actually saw this particular, clip on television, where they just actually sat there, just had his body just laid there, like it was just nothing but just trash. I think that was really the image that really stuck in the mind of most African Americans, if not all, to let them know that there is something that has to be done to let the folks know that they cannot sit there and actually take black lives like that. They shot the kid up, and for the most part, they just sit there and just let him lay. Now, there were police reports that actually said that he was there, actually asking for help and stuff like that, that he really wasn't completely dead, but the police officers actually just sat there and just waited for him to die. And there were also, witnesses, and like I say, I guess they were later proven to be discredited or whatever, that was saying that he did not approach the officers in a threatening manner, but again, they actually went, I guess, to court and battled that out and pretty much overthrew that theory as well. But for the most part, nonetheless, this particular action that was done in Ferguson pretty much sparked really a debate, really a question that is still, I guess, going around in the world today, and actually that are entering, a lot of discussions in a lot of classrooms, a lot of homes, a lot of churches. A lot of civic leaders are really broiling with this question about really what does a black life really mean? Does it really mean anything? Is it on the same level as someone who is non-black? And for the most part, after, considering all of this, and of course the acquittal of the officer that actually took the life of Michael Brown, again, that's actually where we actually got into play with all of these, marches and, all of these particular protests that angered, to let America know that you cannot sit there and actually just take a life like that and don't think that we as the African American community are not going to have anything to say about it, And for the most part, it is, it's okay for what it's worth. But like I say, in a previous video that I did, I don't think it's really going to accomplish much, because again, our history tells, America, that anytime that we're upset, about something, the first thing that we may do, or want to do to rectify the situation is to, organize marches and stuff like that, and for the most part, it's effective in some ways, but then again, it works against us in a lot of other ways. And I think, like I say, with this particular issue, I think, in my personal opinion, that America is not taking us as seriously as we would like to be taken on this particular issue, because look at how, the issues are brought forth. It always has to be that a black person is breaking the law, and the white cop is coming there to, to set them straight. And next thing you know, the black person or whoever gets belligerent, wants to fight back. And of course, the arresting officer has no choice but to take matters into his own hands to protect himself. And of course, other people who may be in the area as well. And we already know the end result is going to be what? Somebody shot, and next thing you know, they're dead. Because we already know that officers in this day and time, especially with the way race relations are going on in this day and time, are taught to shoot to kill. Okay, so what we have to understand too is that, we still have these marches going on, and everybody, is uptight, and like I said, it's and with good reason. I mean, everywhere across America now, you're actually seeing, it doesn't matter what type of crime is being committed. If it involves, a black person and a white officer, they're going to get shot. And next thing you know, and to get to the point, it doesn't even matter really if the black person either dies or not. It does not even matter. The fact about it is that we're waiting at the sidelines to get out there to do our protests. I mean, and like I say, really with this one, I think that this movement is working more against us, in my opinion, than it is for us. Because again, it's just letting America know that we are wanting to play the victim. And I know a lot of people may not want to hear that, but that's just my personal opinion. I mean, sometimes we have to stand up and take accountability of our own actions. If you break the law, if someone tells you, okay, stop, hands up, or whatever the case may be, it's important that you comply. And then if there's something that was done that is a bit questionable to you, it's important that you battle it out in court later. But trying to sit there and trying to take, your life, and you're trying to be a hero, it's not really worth it, because next thing you know, the main thing we're going to be reading about you next is you being in the paper about you being murdered. And, we're singing hymns and eating chicken over your body. But again, for the most part, ever since this particular movement has gone on, or is that, that is actually was created and continuing on in its, process, it's like we as black people are actually out there now just looking for a situation just to antagonize and, for the most part, taunt anybody who is in law enforcement who happens to be white, And the minute that, they, I guess say something, then next thing we want to cry is racism, But the issue is that even though, you do have some racist cops that are on the force, you have to really actually sit there and we have to really re-examine our behaviors and such to see where are we going wrong? What can we do? I mean, marches are fine. I mean, like I say, that's our history and we do it quite well. But what can we do to lessen the losses of the black lives that are seemingly taken from us on an everyday basis? And not only that, you actually have a lot of people also who are of other races that are joining in because they like pretty much what Black Lives Matter stands for. The end of police brutality, again, letting them know that a black life is not just something that is just to be thrown away, that is to be cherished and treated just as valuable or looked at as being just as valuable as a white life. Like I say, you got a lot of people out there that are chanting with the flags, no justice, no peace, of course, Black Lives Matter, which is, of course, all of this is in response, and hoping that it would somehow end, police brutality. But again, what's interesting to me, and like I said, I guess this is the focus of my video, is that I actually wanted to kind of see, just let folks know that, Black Lives Matters is not just, again, a black movement anymore. Since its inception, we've seen black folks, out there that are, like picketing and, marching around, and doing their marches and stuff. But now you have a growing number of, Caucasian white folks that are actually wanting to join in also. And for the most part, it's like it's giving the movement a new flavor, if you will. And like I say, you got a lot of them that are actually that live in black communities, that actually feel that they have an allegiance or a moral responsibility to get out there to, to march with the black folks, to let them know that, hey, even though I'm white, why are you looking at me as being more valuable than my fellow man? I mean, we are all in this, we live in this world together. So, we should be treated, with respect. And like I say, and I can understand that. I have no problems with that, But like I say, it's just the fact that we have to see that the dynamics of this particular movement is going to change. So now you cannot sit there and say, in a sense, that this is just a purely black movement. Because now, like I say, the message has gotten out now. And like I say, the whole world pretty much knows what Black Lives Matters means and its philosophy and its ideology. But now, like I said, it's not no longer a black thing now. It's more now where whites are beginning to join in. And they're joining in at, and it's like they're every time you see a march or a protest, you're actually starting to see white folks that are actually being the main speakers at these events, and I think that's pretty interesting. I'm not saying that it's a right or wrong thing, but I think that it's very interesting, with something actually starting off as purely black that is meant for and led by blacks, that is actually being taken over now by white folks, for the most part. Like I say, I mean, is it a right thing or wrong thing? It's not for me to say. It depends on your personal stake and your personal viewpoints on the matter. But, with all of this Black Lives Matters and everything going on, it actually kind of gave it, I guess, white folks, in a sense, a pass to actually try to, I guess, pretend to, or I wouldn't say pretend, but to try to put on a persona of actually being down with black folks. Actually having them to understand our struggles and stuff like that. And to me, I don't think that really sits well with me. I'm not racist or anything like that, but in my videos, I always try to be fair and imbalanced and always want to keep things, in its proper perspective. And of course, along with this Black Lives Matters, you actually are looking at now where white folks are wanting to come out, and not only want to be a part of our anger and frustration, but they actually want to, in a sense, be us. I mean, if you don't understand what I'm saying, I mean, look at the case here where they were not long ago, we're talking about Rachel Dolezal. I mean, like I say, she's a lady that, has, worked her way up through the ranks of the NAACP, but she came under fire when they were doing an investigation on her to really figure out who is she really. I mean, like I said, she started off, as, when doing research, she started off as the whitest white girl that you can actually be able, to see. She has her typical upbringing, and stuff like that. But things go haywire when you actually ask her about her childhood and what her actual birth parents actually said about her childhood. I mean, it's like you don't really know who to believe, but it's like she's worked overtime at wanting to distance herself from her birth parents, saying, for the most part, how, her life was growing up and the fact about where she really was raised versus what her parents went on television to say how she was raised. I mean, like I said, she has taken on this identity as actually being black. And the thing about it is that I'm not saying that I'm the expert in DNA and genetics and stuff like that, but, it's like something somewhere clicked in there where she just really did not want to identify with who she really is, because she looks like a white woman to me. It's just the fact that I think that she's having an identity crisis, I believe, but that's just my personal opinion. It's neither here nor there. But it's like she's taken on this particular role now where she wants to distance herself from her past. I mean, like I say, and that's okay if she wants to do that. I'm not blaming her for that, but it's the fact that she wants to take on this new identity and she wants other people to accept this as her new way of living. It's like she wants to, portray her struggles as being the same as a black person, that she can really understand what a black person goes through because she's been through it, and I'm like, well, I call foul on that because, again, you don't know the historical struggles of, the African Americans. I mean, like I say, she may have went to college and studied it and everything and became well versed in it and seen how she can put herself to fit in with it. But I still call foul. I mean, like I say, I have all the right to do so, and I am going to do that, and like I say, because white folks, and like I say, nothing against white folks, and I'm not prejudiced or anything, but they've always been, the benefactors of many of things that, that are given or that was created in society. We as blacks were very creative in inventing a lot of stuff, but again, white folks were the ones that wanted to take credit for it. And like I say, and the thing about it is that, once they seen that blacks are evolving and becoming a lot more classier people, a lot more people who are well educated and know how to run households and actually look good in doing it. We go out there and create our own culture. You have a lot of white people that want to be a part of it. And in order for them to be a part of it, they adapt this new identity, and like I say, and they know about it because they've studied it for years. I mean, you have some of them that went to school, and took up African American studies, as their major, and I think she actually did something along those lines too. I'm not sure, but either way, she wants to adapt, excuse me, the black culture and call it as, her actually being born and actually being, actually identifying herself as being a black person. And like I say, I don't think that that's right. I call foul. A lot of people will argue against that, but this is my video. I can say whatever I want to say. Another person that actually kind of popped in my head when I was actually doing this research on this video, is the fella who actually recently came under fire too, where they were doing an investigation under him. And his name is what? Shaun King. Shaun King is a very interesting person. Like I said, he pretty much follows, I guess, his background, I guess, kind of in a way, kind of mimics that of Rachel Dolezal, where he actually wanted to claim that he's black. And the issue is that, he's a very prominent activist of the Black Lives Matters movement. But the issue is that he came under fire when they were doing research, I guess, on his I guess his heritage or his family background or what have you, and come to find out on his birth certificate, you have his parents who are both white. Like I said, and the thing about it is that, it's like he wanted to claim that he was black, I guess, and that he can actually understand the struggles of what black folks are going through, because he actually wants to say that, he was targeted as was targeted and beat up really bad because he was black, I guess a light-skinned black person, and the thing about it is that, he wanted to kind of, I guess, play on the emotions of the public, because, he really wanted to go into depth about, for the most part, how bad, the beating was. And I took a look at the pictures and stuff like that, and whoever did him in, they did him in pretty bad. I mean, they really did a number on him. But he actually wanted to say that it was racially motivated. So for the most part, I guess with that being said, that means that puts him in the equal standing with the rest of black America. And for the most part, it depends. I mean, is he right for doing that? I mean, and the question really remains, and America really wants to know, is this fella black? And like I say, a lot of black folks, and when it comes to that, a lot of black folks actually give passes to people like that because, again, he's been through, this particular turmoil. He went to Morehouse College. He went to the predominant historically black college, I guess, in Atlanta, all male college or whatever. And he actually, again, took up, the typical curriculum that people that want to be black, actually will do and behave in. And the thing about it, I think he took up, what is it, African American Studies or something like that. That was his major in Morehouse College. The funny thing about it is that, when you have folks that are white, that really has an interest in black culture, they actually take on they actually adopt the culture, where they actually start to really, have the appearances. They actually even have the lingo down. Maybe that was something because they actually were raised around a lot of black folks, or it was something that they actually saw that they really actually liked. Because I remember I looked at a video recently, where they were talking about this particular fella and the fact that they actually think that he's black because of the fact of how he wear his hair, how he has a part in his hair, and stuff, and how he speaks. And I'm like, well, that to me is, you have to come a lot better than that, because anybody can sit there and study something for quite a while and begin to adopt and even begin to act like what it is that they've actually been studying. So for the most part, just because, you were beat up really bad, and that's unfortunate, and I don't wish that on anybody, that still does not mean that you still understand the struggle of black folks. I mean, like I say, and this actually happened, I think, around, his time in high school or something like that. That's pretty much that's where he actually wanted to say, so he can identify, with the struggles of the typical black person, because, again, he's saying that he was beat up really bad. But just because you hang around black folks and stuff like that, and that's the only people who you really want to identify yourself as, and that you have, black women who you like to flaunt around with and stuff like that, that really does not mean that you are black. And see, the thing about it again is that, like I say, you got a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to have a lot of more people that are going to be coming under controversy, with masquerading as being one thing when, when you go back and look at legal documents of their heritage or their birth or what have you, it says that they are something else completely different. You can't distance yourself from who you are. Just like if you're a racist, you can't distance yourself from being a racist because you've been brought up around it. You've adopted that as your methodology. So you're living that. And if you try to actually masquerade and do something else and try to live differently than what you were raised and been around all your life, you're going to end up messing yourself up because you're going to end up, fooling yourself thinking that you're fooling somebody else. And like I say, we as black folks, for the most part, even though, a lot of people don't want to give us credit for being intelligent, we're not dumb folks. We can actually understand and really can be able to recognize, phonies. Like I say, I'm not calling him a phony or whatever. I'm just generally speaking on the surface, but in the wake of all of this that's going on and, in the Black Lives Matters movement and the fact that you have a lot of people who are very light skinned, they call them, I guess, if they don't want to identify themselves as white, they want, I guess, to be considered light skinned black folks. But either way you split it or cut it, you're going to still come up with the same issue and you're going to still come to the same conclusion. But the issue with this is that, with all of this that's being said, the question asked, do white folks really have do they really have a stake or really have a place in a movement that's been created for, the equality and for, blacks? Is it okay for them to participate in these rallies? Is it okay to do that? What do black people think? What is Black America saying, about this? Well, there's a lot of interesting theories that are out there right now. And, one of them I think of, and I think I will actually have a lot of people that would agree with me, is the fact and the concept of white guilt. Like I say, this is not going to be a particular highly favorable presentation to a lot of people because, again, I'm attacking issues, that I think that needs to be brought to the forefront. That's the whole reason why in my intro you see the person there with the moving brain, the head, the skull moving around, because this is something, that really needs to be thought of. It's something that needs to be kind of to kind of go a little bit in depth with. And that's pretty much what I'm wanting to do with this. But the question is, and a lot of people will argue, the reason why a lot of white folks want to really get in on something like this is because they actually feel guilty about the issues and things that they've placed black folks through, throughout earlier eras and, in human history. Now, are they correct to say that? I mean, well, again, I'm not going to say yes or no, but it depends on your viewpoint and how you look at things. Like I say, you got a lot of people now, again, who are joining the forefront, who are, joining, the picket lines, as I said earlier, about, the Black Lives Matters movement, because they figure that morally it's something that really needs to be discussed. I mean, like I said, and God bless them, they are really understanding the fact that you don't take and really devalue a life just because it's not housed in white skin. You know what I mean? If you can follow what I'm saying, they're out there, even though they may never have been, I guess, discriminated against or talked down because of their skin color, they're out there still wanting to put themselves on the line, even to the point where some of them really, really want to, they'll end up going to jail, just like a black person out there for protesting. I mean, like I say, it's going to be very interesting, I think, to see where this particular movement goes. I mean, like I say, and the thing about it, again, is that you have a lot of white folks, I mean, not a lot of black folks who may not be out there picketing, but they want to know why are white folks out there picketing. And, and a lot of them, again, will come up with the same solution, that, white guilt. And you can see it, and it's like it's all over the place. That's why, and according to them, those who think that way, that's the reason why you're starting to see an outpouring of white folks who are joining in these marches. Like I say, it all depends on your particular issue and how you feel about the situation. But again, as we look at the horizon and pretty much in where this particular movement is going in the future, I mean, I'm going to start to, again, to continue to keep an eye out. They're trying to see here, again, how this is going to continue to change. Because, again, you're going to have a lot of different people now, maybe even Asians and, other folks of different nationalities that are going to be joining in on the forefront, because this is something that really, that was pioneered by blacks. But yet still, just like everything else in history, it ends up in the hands of white folks, and like I say, a lot of people may say that I'm wrong for saying that, but I think I'm very real for saying that, because if you look at our history and how, we may create things, but in the end we don't keep them, even though it may be a part of our hard work, and it may be our creativity that caused this thing to happen. Other folks actually take an interest in it, and they actually move it and take it as their own, and and they put their stamp of approval on it and make their changes, and then guess what? It's no longer ours anymore. It's happened with our culture, our music, everything that we have done to to make things our own, where we can actually have something to give to our future, our young offspring. White folks will come in and take it, manipulate it, change it, and the next thing you know, they want to actually say, okay, you're going to actually we're going to be a part of this. Either you're going to be a part of this, or we're going to take over the whole thing. And like I say, this is just another classic case of, again, something, along the lines that a lot of people don't really want to talk about, that's a part of our culture. And the fact about it, again, it's just something that, again, we have to accept, even though there's not really much that can be done about it. So like I say, it will be interesting to see, what folks may think about this. But anyway, I've ran my mouth long enough for the most part. I'm going to keep my eyes on this particular movement here. And like I say, I may from time to time do a video about it. But like I say, we just got to understand is that Black Lives Matters is not, it's not really much of a black event anymore. It's not a black cause anymore. So that's pretty much what I want the folks who ever may want to listen to this. That's what I want for them to understand. Okay. Peace out, folks. Talk to you later.